Hello, dear students. Very good morning. In the last class, we discussed the last topic of this chapter was European Union, and we discussed how European Union matters in today's world politics. How European Union formation was started, the involvement of big power such as USA, the role of Marshall Plan in the formation of European Union. We saw everything. In today's class, we're going to discuss about ASEAN. So ASEAN is an association of Southeast Asian nation. As you can understand with the full form also, Association of Southeast Asian nation. Just go through this map first. Here you can see the Southeast Asian regions. Mainly, currently there are 10 important countries of Southeast Asian regions. They are member of ASEAN. Now, which are those 10 important countries? Brunei, Cambodia. This is the region. This is the Southeast Asian region. Here you can find Brunei, Cambodia, Indonesia, Laos, Malaysia, Myanmar, Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, and Vietnam. So this is the region which we are discussing today in our topic ASEAN. We will be talking about this region. So these are 10 important countries here. However, they are very small countries. Individually, they may not have that much strength. But unitedly, अगर हम उनकी जीडीपी की भी बात करें ना पूरे रीजन की जीडीपी की भी तो इट इज नियरली $8 ट्रिलियन इकोनॉमी पीपीपी प्राइसेस में $8 ट्रिलियन के करीब की आपकी पूरी जीडीपी है और अगर मार्केट प्राइस में अगर दूसरे वे में अगर बात करें तो दैट इज आल्सो $4 ट्रिलियन के करीब इकोनॉमी है सो दैट इज आल्सो यू कैन अंडरस्टैंड द पावर एंड द स्ट्रेंथ ऑफ दिस रीजन इस रीजन की और स्ट्रेटेजिकली भी बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है द लोकेशन ऑफ दिस ऑल रीजन. So that's why ASEAN is very, very important. So ASEAN is an association of 10 countries: Brunei, Cambodia, Indonesia, Laos, Malaysia, Myanmar, Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, and Vietnam. Now, after Second World War, when Second World War ended, this whole region was ये जो पूरा region है ये या तो पहले अगर हम बात करें या तो यूरोपियन जो कंट्रीज थे जिसमें चाहे फ्रांस है, ब्रिटेन है, इवन पुर्तगाली पहले कई एरिया पे उनका कंट्रोल था, इंडोनेशिया के कुछ आइलैंड्स पे उनका कंट्रोल था, या उसके अलावा जापान जो कि एक इम्पोर्टेंट पार्ट था कंटेम्प्रेरी वर्ल्ड में, तो उसका एक बहुत बड़ा रोल था और उसका बहुत बड़ा मतलब बहुत एरिया पे उसका कंट्रोल भी था. सो इट वाज अ काइंड ऑफ कॉलोनी, इट वाज अ काइंड ऑफ देयर वाज अ कॉलोनियल रूल हियर इन दिस रीजन. बट जब ये कॉलोनियल रूल खत्म हुआ तो वर्ल्ड वॉर सेकंड के बाद में एज वी डिस्कस इन द केस ऑफ यूरोपियन यूनियन यहाँ पे भी दो ऑप्शन थे, या तो वो ग्रुप में शामिल होते यूएसएसआर के यूएसए के ये सारी कंट्रीज, लेकिन यहाँ पे एक प्रॉब्लम थी यूरोप से अलग हटके कि यहाँ पे बहुत बैकवर्डनेस, पोवर्टी, एक्सट्रीम लेवल पे पोवर्टी, बैकवर्डनेस ऑलरेडी थी. सो ये कुछ इंग्रेडिएंट्स होते हैं, दीज आर सच इंग्रेडिएंट्स व्हिच आर इंग्रेडिएंट्स ऑफ द कॉन्फ्लिक्ट. अगर इनको अगर सही से टैकल नहीं किया जाए, इनको रिजॉल्व नहीं किया जाए तो कंट्रीज में सिविल वॉर काइंड ऑफ सिचुएशन भी हो सकती है. करंटली इन करंट वर्ल्ड, if we talk about Syria, if we talk about the African countries like Somalia, Congo, you see extreme poverty there, unemployment rate is very high. What is going on there? Civil war kind of situation is going on there. So यहाँ पे भी वर्ल्ड वॉर सेकंड के बाद में जो कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस थे, जो रिजल्ट्स थे रिपीटेड कॉलोनियलिज्म के, चाहे वो यूरोपियन की तरफ से कॉलोनियल पावर यहाँ पे की रूल किया गया हो या जापानीज की तरफ से, इनके सामने एक प्रॉब्लम थी. वो प्रॉब्लम थी नेशन बिल्डिंग की. एज इन द केस ऑफ इंडिया ऑल्सो, इंडिया में भी आजाद हुआ था तो हमारे सामने सबसे बड़ा चैलेंज यही था कि हमें नेशन को बनाना है. सबसे पहले हमें किसी ब्लॉक में शामिल नहीं होना, इसलिए हमने नॉन अलाइनमेंट मूवमेंट की पॉलिसी फॉलो की. तो इनका भी यही था, इस रीजन का भी. तो रेवेजेस ऑफ पॉवर्टी, इकोनॉमिक बैकवर्डनेस, प्रेशर टू अलाइन विथ वन ग्रेट पावर और अनदर ड्यूरिंग द कोल्ड वॉर, ये रेसिपी थी कॉन्फ्लिक्ट की. और साउथ ईस्ट एशियन नेशन की जो कंट्रीज थी, दे कुड नॉट अफोर्ड इट. इसीलिए फिर क्या हुआ, efforts at Asian and third world unity, कि वो countries, the countries which are not part of any of the group in the Cold War, any of the two groups, because world was bipolar, तो उस bipolar में दोनों पोल में किसी भी पोल में जो शामिल नहीं हो रही थी कंट्रीज, उन कंट्रीज को ही थर्ड वर्ल्ड बोला गया. ठीक है, जो न्यूली इंडिपेंडेंट कंट्री है ना, got rid of the colonialism. So efforts were made in this region also for the third world unity. and such as efforts like bending conference. Bending conference was also initial conference for non-alignment movement. So these kind of efforts were made to establish a kind of association or kind of region, so that they can develop in a peaceful manner. They can get rid of the extreme poverty and all those ingredients, those which lead to conflict. इनसे मूव करने के लिए हमें क्या करना होगा? तो इनसे मूव करने के लिए हमें क्या करना होगा? इनसे मूव करने के लिए हमें कुछ ऐसी नॉन अलाइनमेंट मूवमेंट पॉलिसी फॉलो करनी होगी. तो इन कंट्रीज ने भी यही फॉलो किया. एंड अपार्ट फ्रॉम दिस नॉन अलाइनमेंट मूवमेंट, आज के टाइम में अगर कॉन्टेक्स्ट में हम बात करें या उस कॉन्टेक्स्ट में अगर बात करें, दे वर लाइक सक्सेसफुल थे, बट दे वर नॉट हैविंग दैट मच काइंड ऑफ इफेक्ट. और आज के करंट सर्कमस्टांसेस, इन करंट सर्कमस्टांसेस नॉन अलाइनमेंट मूवमेंट इज नॉट दैट मच सक्सेसफुल, उतना सक्सेसफुल नहीं है. तो रीजनल कॉपरेशन के लिए, और रीजनल कॉपरेशन कौन सा? यही रीजन, साउथ ईस्ट एशिया का रीजन. यहाँ पे आपस में डिस्प्यूट्स को सॉर्ट आउट करने के लिए, आपस में having a cooperative nature among the countries of Southeast Asia, they formed Southeast Asian association. And so that's how this association of Southeast Asian nation was formed, to have a kind of region where in a cooperative manner they all can succeed. So it was established in 1967. Initially there was 5 countries, but currently there are 10 countries. And here you can see the flag of ASEAN also, and which you can see the 10 stocks. These 10 stocks are representing the solidarity among these all 10 states. Now, which are those 10 countries which are member of ASEAN currently? Brunei, Cambodia, Indonesia, Laos, Malaysia, Myanmar, Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, and Vietnam. But one by one, step by step, just go through this. Initially there was 5 founding members, and which were 5 countries region: the Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, Singapore, and Thailand. These were the founding members of ASEAN. With Thailand declaration, in Thailand the declaration happened. With Thailand declaration, they made a treaty, and that's how the ASEAN was formed in 1967. Now the objectives, there are 2 types of objectives. अब यहाँ पे ध्यान रखना है 2 types के, कुछ primary objectives हैं इनके and कुछ secondary objectives हैं इनके. Primarily objective are such as to accelerate economic growth and through that social progress and cultural development. So primary objective in the economic context, कि हमें economically develop करना है, so that we can get rid of the poverty and we can also grow with a fast GDP growth rate, and that's how we can have prosperity in our region. So first and foremost aim, the primary objective of ASEAN is to accelerate economic growth, and through that what they want to achieve? Through that they want to achieve social progress and cultural development. तो पहला इनका primary objective क्या है? Economic growth. अब इनका secondary objective और है, and what is that? आपस में जो disputes है, the disputes, because यहाँ पे आपस में भी बहुत सारे disputes हैं इन countries में. चाहे कंबोडिया का एग्जांपल लें हम, चाहे कंबोडिया वर्सेस वियतनाम, जो दोनों इसके मेंबर हैं, बहुत बार इनके बीच में वॉर हुई है. और इसके अलावा इंडोनेशिया की अपनी इंटरनल अफेयर्स हैं. तो कई सारे इश्यूज आपस में भी रीजनल कॉन्फ्लिक्ट्स हैं. टू रिजॉल्व दोज रीजनल कॉन्फ्लिक्ट्स दे मस्ट हैव रीजनल पीस एंड स्टेबिलिटी. दिस इज देयर सेकेंडरी ऑब्जेक्टिव. फर्स्ट ऑब्जेक्टिव इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ करना, उससे सोशल और कल्चरल डेवलपमेंट लेना, कल्चरल ग्रोथ लेना. और सेकेंडरी ऑब्जेक्टिव है वाज टू प्रमोट रीजनल पीस एंड स्टेबिलिटी. इट इज देयर सेकेंडरी ऑब्जेक्टिव, टू प्रमोट regional peace and stability based on the rule of law and the principles of the United Nations Charter. Now, what was United Nations Charter? United Nations का भी यही objective आपको पता है, to resolving the conflict throughout the world in a peaceful manner, so that everyone can live peacefully, throughout the globe. If there are conflict between the countries, so there is an organization, international organization, which resolves the disputes. United Nations has not been that much successful, इतना successful नहीं हुआ है. आप देखते हो बहुत सारे disputes में उसका रोल जो है that is doubtful, but it has maintained. आज भी आपको पता है यूनाइटेड नेशन के अंदर पीस कीपिंग फोर्सेस आर वर्किंग इन मेनी पार्ट्स ऑफ द वर्ल्ड टू मेंटेन पीस एंड ट्रैंक्विलिटी इन द रीजन. उस पीस कीपिंग फोर्सेस में इंडिया भी अपनी आर्मी भेजता है. जितने भी मेंबर्स हैं यूनाइटेड नेशन के, वो अपनी आर्मीज वहां पे भेजते हैं, इंटरनेशनल आर्मी। तो इन मेनी अफ्रीकन कंट्रीज लाइक इन कॉन्गो, सोमालिया, यहाँ पे बहुत सारे हमारे पीस कीपिंग फोर्सेस ऑफ यूनाइटेड नेशंस आर देयर टू मेंटेन पीस एंड ट्रैंक्विलिटी। सो अकॉर्डिंग टू यूनाइटेड नेशन चार्टर, यूनाइटेड नेशन चार्टर क्या है? इंटरनेशनल पीस। तो उसी के वे में एक रीजनल पीस को मेंटेन करना और यूनाइटेड नेशन का जो चार्टर है उसको फॉलो करना, तो ये इनका सेकेंडरी ऑब्जेक्टिव। टू टाइप्स ऑफ ऑब्जेक्टिव, प्राइमरी इकोनॉमिक, सेकेंडरी रीजनल पीस एंड स्टेबिलिटी। नाउ ओवर द इयर्स सम अदर कंट्रीज लाइक ब्रुनेई, दारुसलाम, वियतनाम, लाओस, म्यांमार, कंबोडिया, दे आल्सो ज्वाइंड आसियान। इन्होंने भी आसियान को ज्वाइन किया, टेकिंग इट स्ट्रेंथ टू 10। सो करंटली इसके कितने मेंबर्स हैं टोटल? 10 members are there, and which are those? कौन है वो 10 members? Again शुरू के 5 members and again some other countries which joined later on, like Brunei, Cambodia, Indonesia, Laos and Malaysia, Myanmar, Philippines, Singapore, Thailand and Vietnam. Unlike EU, European Union, there is little desire in ASEAN for supranational structures and institutions. As we discussed about their aims, तो उनका aim motive क्या है? सबसे पहला कि regional stability को maintain करना और economic growth लेना। Yes, so everyone, that's how these are important 10 countries which are member of ASEAN. So they don't want to be like have supranational structures as in the case of EU, European Union. ASEAN countries have celebrated what has become known as the ASEAN way. बहुत important question बन सकता है, यहाँ से ध्यान रखना। What is ASEAN way? ASEAN way क्या है? तो ASEAN way simple सा है. If someone asks you what is ASEAN way, so it is a kind of approach. जो यहाँ की कंट्री की जो अप्रोच है, जो मेथडोलॉजी है, जो वर्किंग स्टाइल है, जो कॉपरेशन का मेथड है, which they adopted, the doctrine, the principles they adopted, है ना, to solve the disputes if they have, है ना, to respect Southeast Asian culture so that their regional disputes also can be sorted out with negotiation. Their ultimate aim must be having an economic growth, and combinedly they can achieve that. They should respect each other's sovereignty, and this is known as ASEAN way. ये जो modus operandi, ये जो एक आप कह रहे हो, that culture, that working style, that methodology, that method, that approach, this approach is known as ASEAN way, where they all respect each other's sovereignty and peacefully they resolve the disputes. They also have many disputes, so they resolve these all disputes in a peaceful manner. So that is known as ASEAN way. इसी को हम ASEAN way कह रहे हैं. So it is a form of interaction that is informal, non-confrontationist and cooperative. So with cooperation, not following the confrontationist policies, and resolving the disputes with peaceful manner, with negotiation. The respect for national sovereignty is critical of the functioning of ASEAN. So every country which are member of ASEAN, they respect each other's sovereignty. They also at the same time they may have disputes with each other, but because they are member of ASEAN, and the ultimate aim of ASEAN is to achieve the economic growth, and through that achieving the social and economic prosperity, cultural prosperity. So for that they'll have to follow the ASEAN way. And what is that ASEAN way? To respect each other's sovereignty, to resolve the conflicts in a peaceful manner. ये चीज करना, ठीक है? With some of the fastest growing economies in the world, ASEAN broadened its objective beyond the economic and social spheres. In 2003, ASEAN ने यूरोपियन यूनियन के तरीके से ही कुछ पिलर्स पर, like in 3 pillars, on the basis of 3 pillars, they made 3 dimensions of ASEAN. On these 3 dimensions, on these 3 aspects, we're gonna be working. इन 3 aspects पर हम work करेंगे. और वो ASEAN के 3 pillars कौन से हैं? देखो, first of all, ASEAN community comprising 3 pillars, namely ASEAN security community, ASEAN economic community, and ASEAN socio-cultural community. That these are the 3 dimensions, 3 aspects on which we should work. हम ASEAN की बात कर रहे हैं, उनकी जो वर्किंग स्टाइल है, उनका जो वे है, जिसको हम ASEAN वे कह रहे हैं, वो समझ रहे हैं यहाँ पे. So in 2003, they established further 3 pillars of ASEAN: security community, economic community, and ASEAN socio-cultural community. Now the ASEANs, अब इन तीनों के क्या क्या वर्क है, सिक्योरिटी कम्युनिटी का क्या वर्क है. So the ASEAN security community was based on the conviction that outstanding territorial disputes should not escalate into armed confrontation. There may be disputes between Cambodia versus Vietnam, or maybe disputes versus many countries have, because they share boundaries, so they may have disputes, they may have border disputes, but they have to sort out these border disputes with a good approach, with a better approach, so that with negotiation they can sort out, not following the confrontationist approach, where you know इशू स्टार्ट छोटे से इशू से होता है, बॉर्डर डिस्प्यूट से कोई भी हो, फिर वो अल्टीमेटली बैटल वॉर में कन्वर्ट हो जाता है. सो ऐसी सिचुएशन ना है, इसको हमें अवॉइड करना है. तो इसलिए इन्होंने क्या किया, उस सिक्योरिटी कम्युनिटी, आसियान सिक्योरिटी कम्युनिटी का बस एक ही एम है कि like making such kind of atmosphere where each and every country which are member of ASEAN, they should respect each other's sovereignty, and if they may have territorial dispute, so they should resolve these all territorial disputes with negotiation, not with confrontation, because confrontation can lead what, to war, and that will be disastrous for all. So by 2003 ASEAN had several agreements, bahut sare inhone agreements kiye in place, by which member states promised to uphold peace, neutrality, cooperation, non-interference.
So all of you, that is the main motive of security community of ASEAN. So ASEAN also had many agreements, bilateral agreements also, multilateral agreements also in ASEAN between the countries, so that they can resolve their disputes, border disputes, territorial disputes in a peaceful manner. This is the aim of ASEAN security community. Now the ASEAN Regional Forum, that is ARF in short abbreviation, which was established in 1994, is the organization that carries out coordination of security and foreign policy. So another important organization of ASEAN, important organ of ASEAN, ARF, that is ASEAN Regional Forum. And the main aim of this regional forum is to have a coordination of security and foreign policy, so that they can have such kind of policies in which they respect each other's sovereignty, and that's how they have that peace and tranquility in their region. Now next, ASEAN was and still remains principally an economic association. That is about economic pillar की अगर हम बात करें, three pillars हमने देखी, security, economic and social. Now here we are discussing about the economic, being as an economic association. This was primary objective, still this is primary objective of ASEAN, to have that economic growth, so that through economic growth they can achieve their social and economic prosperity in their region. While the ASEAN region as a whole is a much of smaller economy compared to US, EU or Japan, its economy is growing much faster than all these. However, as we were discussing that they are like smaller countries in this region, but combinedly they have the power. And unitedly they have that much strength, that much leverage over other countries, which they are taking the benefits of that. आज वो उसका benefits ले रहे हैं. तो यही हम discuss कर रहे हैं यहाँ पे, that ASEAN principally as an economic association, ASEAN as a whole, it may be like the countries as an individual, they may be like having low GDP compared to the big countries. Unitedly also they may not have, are like at par with US or with EU, European Union or Japan, but unitedly they have that much leverage or strength because their GDP is growing with a faster speed. So they will have a time period when they will have that. आज के टाइम में तो उनकी इकोनॉमी लगभग, as we were discussing, nearly $8 trillion economy. So it's combinedly. So that also shows their real strength as far as the economic context is concerned. Now this accounts for the growth in its influence both in region and the beyond. So therefore we can understand the importance of ASEAN, that this whole creates a kind of influence which ASEAN has over other countries, and not in the region, but beyond that. Now, the objective of the ASEAN Economic Community are to create a common market and production base with ASEAN states and to aid social and economic development in this region. So this is the common aim, that they create such an atmosphere where free trade agreement, like trade barriers, trade obstacles. So trade obstacles and trade barriers must not be there among the countries of ASEAN, and combinedly also they discussing with other countries, and other countries are also having kind of agreements with ASEAN to have FDA, that is FTA, that is free trade area, for foreign direct investments also. So that's how creating an economic atmosphere where they have that FDI, FII or free trade agreement area, so that their economic growth can be like boosted up. So economic community also like to improve existing ASEAN dispute settlement mechanisms to resolve economic disputes. There may be economic disputes also. So this economic community is trying to resolve, if they have any economic disputes, they resolve it in a peaceful manner. The members of ASEAN. ASEAN has focused on creating free trade area, FTA, for investments, labor and services. The US and China have already moved fast to negotiate FTAs with ASEAN. We have also, हमने भी जो है ASEAN के साथ में फ्री ट्रेड एरिया के लिए कई सारे एग्रीमेंट्स कर रखे हैं. Here you can see a cartoon. यहाँ पे एक साइड में कार्टून भी देख सकते हो. This cartoon here a person representing Dr. Manmohan Singh. How at his time he followed that Act East policy and tried to have negotiation with ASEAN. हालांकि फ्री ट्रेड एरिया में उनको आसियान कंट्रीज को ज्यादा बेनिफिट है बनस्पत की हमारे, लेकिन इसलिए ये हमको साइड में दिख रहा है ना आगे की तरफ से. दिस इज रिप्रेजेंटिंग दैट कंपटीशन. फ्री ट्रेड एरिया में ये होता है लाइक इफ वी हैव एग्रीमेंट विद अदर कंट्रीज देन दे कैन आल्सो एक्सपोर्ट देयर गुड्स in a free manner, and we can also, so we are also providing, we are like big country, we have that much population, so our purchasing power in our country is also very much, हमारे यहाँ purchasing power भी बहुत है, तो हम आसियान को ज्यादा बेनिफिट्स दे रहे हैं उसके बजाय हम कम बेनिफिट्स अटेन कर पा रहे हैं. तो उस एक कॉन्ट्रास्ट को यहाँ पे ये कार्टून शो कर रहा है. दैट इज शोइंग दैट कॉन्ट्रास्ट. Now, the US and China have already moved fast. They have already had discussions regarding FTA with ASEAN. ASEAN is rapidly growing into a very important regional organization. इसका जो vision था, Vision 2020, that has defined an outward-looking role for ASEAN in international community. Or currently, in the international politics, ASEAN matters a lot. Every year, ASEAN organizes its meeting, and important countries of the world, they also take part in the meetings. So here also you can understand the importance of ASEAN. Now for ASEAN, this builds on the existing ASEAN policy to encourage negotiation over conflicts in the region. कि हमें conflicts को दूर करना है negotiations के जरिए. Thus ASEAN has meditated the end of Cambodia conflict. Cambodia versus Vietnam की war चलती थी, तो ASEAN के through they had such peace and tranquility. The East Timor crisis, यहाँ पे एक रीजन है जिसमें इंडोनेशिया ने एक तरीके से अर्लियर ईस्ट तिमोर पे पुर्तगीज का कब्जा था. तिमोर इज एन आइलैंड. इंडोनेशिया में बहुत सारे आइलैंड्स हैं. तिमोर इज एन आइलैंड वेयर पुर्तगीज हैड देयर कंट्रोल. व्हेन पुर्तगीज लेफ्ट, इंडोनेशियन आर्मी केम देयर एंड इंडोनेशिया हैड कंट्रोल ऑन तिमोर. सो वहां पे इंडोनेशिया ने कंट्रोल किया, कॉन्फ्लिक्ट हुआ. इस कॉन्फ्लिक्ट को भी पीसफुल मैनर में रिजॉल्व करने का ASEAN played role. The current economic strength of ASEAN, especially its economic relevance as a trading and investment partner to the growing ASEAN economy such as India and China, makes this an attractive proposition. So for India, for China, for even many of the countries, ASEAN is very important. Strategically also important. For economic context also, it is very important organization. This region is very important region. During the Cold War years, Indian foreign policy did not pay adequate attention to ASEAN, but in recent years, as this cartoon is suggesting, we had followed from that Act East policy, like Look East policy to Act East policy. आज के टाइम में since 2014, when नरेंद्र मोदी became Prime Minister, नरेंद्र मोदी ने पहले जो Act East policy थी हमारी, जिसमें ऐसा था कि ईस्ट की तरफ कि जो कंट्रीज उनके साथ में we'll have to like negotiate with them, we'll have to have agreement of trade agreements. Since 2014 इसका नाम चेंज कर दिया गया, पॉलिसी कुछ वैसी ही है, एक्ट ईस्ट की जगह इसको लाइक लुक ईस्ट की जगह इसको एक्ट ईस्ट बोला जा रहा है इस पॉलिसी, इन विच ये मेन उनका इंटेंट है, द मेन इंटेंट ऑफ गवर्नमेंट इज दैट वी मस्ट हैव much and much like much and much cooperation in economic context, people to people contact also must be there, regional for regional cooperation. So this is the main aim of the act east policy. So we have also paid attention towards ASEAN. The ASEAN India FTA came into 2010 foreign trade area, we had agreement. Here also you can see a picture of Narendra Modi, here you can see, and other leaders of ASEAN countries, leaders, they releasing postal stamps to commemorate that silver jubilee of India and ASEAN partnership. So countries are like, however, they are very smaller countries, but combinedly they have that much strength, that much leverage, that all the countries are having agreements with them, with ASEAN. So that's how ASEAN is very important organization, regional organization. Their main aim is to have that economic growth, and through that achieving the social and cultural growth.